Hey everybody, welcome back to another film of the week. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. As you can tell, we are not anywhere at my home. I'm actually in San Diego, and I actually decided to return to the Digital Gym Cinema place, very small place in the UCSD, San Diego University. Um, Very nice little theater, very, very small, but um, like just the environment there is um, very suitable. If you're very rudimentary, you have interest in the cinematic landscape. This place has, that sort of sentiment. It's not just a place of entertainment. They actually care about the sort of films that they're wanting to present. And this film, I actually really wanted to see, um, mainly by its release. It's rather difficult to find this film anywhere. That film that we're going to be discussing today is a film called Memoria, which stars Tilda Swinton and directed by somebody who I cannot pronounce, so I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. Um, this is a unique case because the film never got released on any streaming platforms. I mean, it was released on Blu-ray and in other foreign markets, but in the North American market, it's rather absent, and it's you kind of have to just uh, see it when you can find it in your area. And Memoria happened to return to the San Diego area, and I decided to take up on the opportunity and watch it. And well, I have some thoughts. Maybe give myself away based on that delivery, but um, like I said, the stars Tilda Swinton as a girl named Jessica, and the film opens with a literal bang sound, a banging sound, I must say. Very indescribable sound, we must say. Also, it has a very unique sound to it, kind of like a rubber band almost, like when you just stretch it and it just goes, has like a whipping, blaring quality when that sound hits, and it's a jolt when you hear it. Definitely just sets you back a little bit. And Tilda Swinton's character, Jessica, is trying to find out the rudimentary to that sound, trying to manifest that sound. And throughout the film, there is a attention to sound. A lot of a key feature to Memoria, when you invest into it, is that there is a focus on sounds. Like there's all the sounds are highlighted, some to a tedious measure, but just as it is all about the sound quality, focusing on all the sounds. Um, and um, through the, dissection of said sound, afterwards, it is focusing on Jessica in on an emotional state. And what you get from the film is ultimately a person who is struggling, or not struggling, but is rudimentary, very lonely. And the sound is a fantastical representation, to my understanding of it, of her loneliness, of uh, her spiritual sensibilities, her meditative quality. These waves, these feelings are illustrated a lot in the filmmaking, and I think, to my view, very blatant. But to give you guys an understanding of how I feel about Memoria, I've only invested an hour into it. I decided to step out after an hour because the issue that the film bears, and I just read it on a review from Letterboxd, and I think just perfectly highlights my issues with the film, is that its lingering sensibilities are one and the same in every scene. It's not a film that highlights specific moments or gives you an understanding that this is meant to be an important scene, or that there highlights specific details in the film. It's a film that just literally plays. It just lets scenes draw out. It lets scenes try the kid terminology today, cook, but in my view, it's just burns. It's that there's some scenes where it feels like it earnest, but because there's more activity happening, And I don't mind a film that has lingering sensibilities at all. I prefer films like that, but I prefer when the filmmaking has a lot of activity at play. And when there's not a lot of activity at play, what you get is mostly being held by Tilda Swinton. I mean, because Tilda Swinton's always great, and she's great in this too, even though it is very minimalistic in terms of what she's provided and in terms of the overall style of the filmmaking. You could qualify it as minimalistic. I mean, the comparisons are probably obviously that of like Bella Tarr, of how she likes to stretch in terms of the length of certain shots. A little bit of Tatarsky in there. It borrows from very auteur and slow burning type of sensibilities, but they never are given more to flesh out or given more of a purpose outside of out of a artistic desire to just stretch those scenes out. It doesn't have a thematic or narrative reason for why we have to stay in the company of these characters for as long as we play. And it doesn't serve us much for Jessica as a character either. I mean, you get like there's really just 3 scenes that highlight her from the hour that I watched. There was like 3 scenes that basically gave me an impression of who this character is supposed to be. It's the first scene where we are given that sound and you see how she walks through her house. The second scene being of her dissecting the sound with that sound designer, and the third scene being that when she's alone in the park and that sound returns. It demonstrates very much so about this character's distance, her distance towards everything, and this more eternal effect rather than the external. So it's a lot more to do with what the character is feeling on the inside and less to do with what's happening on the outside. And oddly enough, also having the outside elements being rather dominant, being so sharp and being so focused. Perhaps that illustrates a sensitivity towards her. I mean, I don't know. But honestly, I just didn't care. It's just, I could see the mark. I could see what they're attempting to do in terms of its style, but it's just not surfacing anything, and it doesn't give much. It's just by definition meandering. It is, when you watch those scenes play out, it's just long and tedious and frankly a bit boring. It's more or less your anticipation for the sound that keeps you interested, and to some extent kind of is also something with Jessica's character perhaps, but once you get the jets, once you get it, because it's not a hard film to understand. I mean, if you understand the metaphorical aspect of it, I mean, it's not meant to be taken literal. Obviously, with films like this, when they present certain qualities in a visual medium or by sounds, it's obviously meant to be an illustration of the character that we're following. It's not meant to be a singular or outside element. It's meant to contrast that of the character that we're following. So frankly, I mean, obviously, yes, it is, that sound is meant to illustrate something about the character, and I believe that it has to do a lot with her loneliness and her meditative nature, how she is just bathing in a certain sphere, and the deeper that she gets to that place, she kind of can connect to the earth itself. Like, that's, I think, ultimately what is being highlighted and suggested with that sound. And once I got the message, once I got that by that third scene that I had mentioned, I just thought to myself, I don't need to see more. I really don't need to see more, because I was just rather finding an excuse to leave at some point. Because one, I was like, well, I don't want to be sitting here anticipating a sound, because for one thing, I was fairly anxious today because of stuff going on. So I was like, I don't know. I don't want to be sitting here trying to, you know what I mean? But detaching from my anxiety from today, I was also thinking, like, is there something going on in the filmmaking that is interesting that can make me stay? And frankly, there wasn't. Like I said, it's tedious. It just lingers. It meanders. It those the concept of a slow burn should be still having activity at play. You should be able to still find things that are juicy, that are fascinating, that are interesting. And sometimes there is, within, at least by the hour that I have watched with Memoria, there seems to have been some, but it's just some. And a large majority of what I was watching was just boring and just frank, very apparent of as to what's happening. So, and it's just like the question that kind of came up to me was just like not really what's going on, but more like why? Why is it playing this way? Why does it feel so absent? And I thought, does that play to the character somehow? Does that somehow inform the character more further? Or does it just illustrate the lackluster filmmaking that's at the center of it? And for me, that's what it felt more or less with Memoria, is that it just felt tedious, and it just felt lackluster, and just got really, really boring, and really just there were some people that walked out, and I was thinking to myself, well, let me give it its chance, let me give it its due. And about an hour or so, I was like, yeah. Really, after that scene, like I said, after that scene of where it was the second time you hear that sound again, I decided, yeah, I got it. I got what's going on, and I just don't need to indulge any further. So I was just about to head out, and I just found a great way to summarize the film, in my opinion. It's a film that ultimately is more interested in what you can hear than what it can say. When you're following the film for the duration that it plays, if you were to sit through that 2-hour runtime, I am presuming that what follows through the rest of that hour is a film that is still choosing to bathe in the interest of sound and quality of that sound, versus more of the expressive nature about rudimentary, those feelings that the character is displaying. It does match that sentiment, that aura of that character, that absent like quality that the character possesses. But unfortunately, it succumbs to those definitions rather than using those definitions to be informative and to be more emotionally investing. It's just so absent of really anything of real value outside of just lingering and meandering sensibilities. It has more in common with the word burn than it does with the word slow, as if you get my understanding there. Like, it's just, yeah, like, it seriously has more intrigue in what it can have you listen to than what it can express and what it can tell you. So yeah, I just want to plug this in here somewhere, but yeah, I just thought of that. So back to the review. So yeah, I don't mind the slow burn, but I don't like the emphasis on the burn. I prefer slow movies, but not ones that are excruciatingly slow for no apparent reason. So yeah, so it's just, yeah, really just thinking about it more and more, I'm just like, I just really don't care. So I appreciate what it's trying to do, but ultimately it's trying to imitate those of like Tarkovsky and like Beltar, those sort of sensibilities it's trying to imitate, and it just doesn't get the rudimentary, it doesn't get the emotion, it doesn't get the meaning, it doesn't understand anything besides length, the measure of the length of the shots. That's what it's more about. It's more about the technical stretch than the emotional stretch or the narrative stretch. It's not providing the film more substance. It's just providing the film a certain length in those scenes, and it just comes off more tedious than informative, because there isn't much more to supply within those sequences, except that, hey, she's rather distant, and she's lonely. She's also spiritual. Like, we get that, at some point. It's just, yeah. So I don't know. There was a packed house, so people were still getting a kick out of it, but I don't know. It just wasn't really for me. So yeah. So those are my thoughts on Memoria. Not really for me. I think that if it was paced better and if there was just more activity within its sensibilities, I think I would have appreciated and sat through it. But it was more about anticipating things that don't really matter, you know? It's just not as informative as I think it believes to be within that lingering sensibility. It just doesn't provide much except questions in terms of the filmmaking. So those are my thoughts on Memoria. You guys, what are your thoughts on Memoria? If you guys have seen it, it is a very interesting case in terms of a release. So you guys let me know if you guys have seen it, and your thoughts on Tilda Swinton, and if what about this filmmaker? Have you guys seen any of his other films? Let me know your thoughts, or let me know your thoughts on the filmmaker itself. Is it apparent? Does he like imitate Tarkovsky and Belatar or other types of these auteurs? It seems like that's the inspiration, but maybe I'm wrong. But you guys know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's good for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video.